Hey everyone, we hope you're all doing good and that you're all enjoying the summer, but maybe some of you are waiting for more info about Assassin's Creed Unity. If that's the case, then this video is definitely for you, and at the end of the video don't hesitate to give us your thoughts on the plethora of info we're about to deliver. So let's start with our dear assassin Arno, and if you don't know it yet, Arno's family has strong assassin origins from generation to generation. The Dorian family was an assassin family, and Arno, he is a young determined man, but he is also haunted by his past and all the wrong that he has done, and he feels like he needs to redeem himself, and this is why he starts a quest for redemption after the death of his father. And this quest for redemption, it is the main theme of the game, and the French Revolution, it is just a backdrop of his story. And we also know that he was raised by a Templar Great Master, and perhaps after the death of his father, this Templar could have been his adoptive father, but we're not quite sure about this yet. But what is quite funny is that it reminds us of the story of Haytham Kenway, who lost his father Edward and was raised by a Templar. So Arno will join the Assassin Order because he has a theory that this will help him achieve redemption. He'll start as a novice, but he'll quickly become a master assassin. However, at the beginning of the game, Arno doesn't plan to stay forever in the Order, as he's not quite impressed with the way of the long mystical tradition and the ancient rhetoric as some of the other assassins. He does like to think for himself and make his own decisions, and he isn't the type of person who will believe something just because someone tells him so. He is a very well educated young man. He was raised in a noble household and had access to tutors and books, so he is very well read, and this wasn't a common thing at the time. He has a habit of quoting the classics and tends to use humour to deflect when he is emotionally vulnerable, and he isn't the kind of guy who pronounces badass sentences like in the action movies. He really looks like an actual person, but don't let this fool you, because he is extremely deadly. And his story is truly a return to the roots of the franchise. The scenario has the same structure as the first two games, AC1 and AC2, and his story, it does seem to be quite complicated. As you recently saw, he seems to have a close relationship with a woman called Elise, and we assume that this story, it will also involve some kind of love story, and yes, this will be a strange love story because Elise is a Templar, which is quite interesting. And Elise herself, she is a young noble determined to fully assume her role as a Templar. She is very strong and independent, and her quest introduces her to Arno, and they soon discover that they have strong links with each other. Arno and Elise, they will fight to avenge what they both lost during a dangerous period of struggle between the Assassins and the Templars. And of course, this union between the Assassin Arno and the Templar Elise could explain the subtitle of the game being called Unity. Now, let's talk about the other aspects of the game, and in AC Unity you'll have lots of tools and customization options, and you'll be able to buy pieces of armor such as boots, gloves and belts, and of course weapons. And speaking of the weapons, Arno will now be able to change from one weapon to the next very quickly without selecting it from a menu. The smoke bombs, they're also back in the game, but you won't be able to craft them as you could in AC Revelations, as there is no crafting in the game. But you'll be able to pick up these bombs directly or buy them at the shops. And as far as Paris goes, we have two big new things to share with you. As you already know, you can explore the inside of some buildings, but the good news is that there is no longer a loading screen while you are doing this. The devs, they did try to cut most of the loading screens out of the game to make something really fluid, and also for the first time in the franchise, the map of the game will be in 3D, which is a pretty cool new feature. And as you're exploring the city of Paris, you'll meet a few civilians, some of which will have troubles, and it will be up to you if you want to help them or just keep exploring. And sometimes you'll be seeing murders happening and even people trying to rob the inside of a church. And once again, it's up to the individual player to stop the criminals or simply carry on with what you were doing. You'll also be able to explore abandoned houses and try to find the people who lived there. And there are a lot of hidden stories in the game, and as a true detective, you'll have to follow the clues and interrogate people to finally resolve the murder mysteries. And once you've resolved one of these murder mysteries, you'll get the crime weapon and you'll be able to use it in the game. And there are also a ton of other quests to do as well, and missions such as the treasure hunts, and as a true treasure hunter from the 18th century, you'll have to find clues and solve puzzles to find treasures and unlock in-game content such as outfits. And finally, you have to know that before you launch a mission, you will see how difficult it is to achieve, and the mission difficulty rating is from 1 to 5 stars. And also, the taverns are back in the game, and these are quite interesting places, as this is where you can start a co-op mission, and you can also check in and see which of your friends are playing at the moment. And some of these missions, they are mostly made for 1 to 2 players, and some of the other missions they're for 3 to 4 players. And in a co-op mission, Arno is deadlier when he is fighting with his fellow assassins. And finally, it should take you around 15 to 20 hours to complete the main path of the game, and roughly 100 hours to do all the side quests and missions. Something else the developers also changed is the way in which guards detect the player, and there will be a line of sight system which will take into account the last known position of the player to the guards, and if there are other people in the area, the guards will push and interrogate them, and they will even search for players in moving blend groups. Previously, the stealth system was NPC centric, meaning the player could see a triangle on the heads of the enemies that filled up as they were being detected. But the problem with this is that if the player is turned the opposite way and the guards sneak up on the player from behind and detect the player, this could probably make the player a little bit frustrated. I know it did with me before, because he or she doesn't have enough information to react in time. But in Unity, however, this system is character based, and NPCs that are detecting the presence of the player will be shown by an indicator on the heads up display that will show how the player is being detected. And at the beginning of the story, the assassins for Arno will be a means to an end, and the tragedy that occurs at the beginning of the game in fact will be caused by the Templars, and therefore Arno will be convinced that by joining the assassins he will have more chances to stop the Templars. The co-op missions, they will last approximately 30 to 40 minutes, and there will be 11 in total. The player can play them when and how he or she wants, because each story is standalone. And there will be the equivalent of the villa from AC2 and the homestead from AC3 in the form of cafe theatres. And these cafes, they were cultural centres in which a person's social class did not matter, and where many people who were doing different jobs and had different expertises, such as scientists, writers, politicians, etc., they all gathered to discuss many topics and create new ideas, and whilst they were doing this, they were all drinking coffee instead of alcohol. And Arno will be able to obtain his cafe theatre, where there will be a stage with unlockable content, and each district in the game will also have a satellite cafe that, once purchased, will unlock content in the player's main cafe. And once the satellite cafe is unlocked, some missions will also be unlocked, and these missions, when completed, they will change to a crowd ecosystem, so it'll be the less extremists and more regular NPCs. And this will also change the way the player approaches the missions in the area, because it will have different opportunities. For example, the player will be helped by the crowd. This is all we have for you today, guys. We hope you enjoyed it, and as always, do not hesitate to give us a like and comment to give us your impressions about the new info we brought you today. And as always, we will be discussing with you in the comments, so until next time guys, take care and we'll speak to you soon.